All right, buckle up, everybody. We're diving deep into Atomic Habits today.
Yeah, we're going to break down James Clear's brilliant take on how we build habits and how we break them.
And hopefully walk away with a toolkit for making some real, lasting change.
Think of it like getting that backstage pass how your habits really work.
I gotta say, one of the things that just blew me away was this idea of the plateau of latent potential.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, we put in the work, we're putting in the effort,
Right.
but we just don't see those results.
Yeah.
And we're so close to that breakthrough, but then we just quit.
Mm-hmm. So frustrating.
It's so frustrating.
You're right on the verge of it, and you're like, nah, this isn't working.
Exactly.
It's like, chipping away at a big block of ice.
Yeah.
Each swing of the hammer, you're not seeing a change.
Right.
But then, boom, you hit that critical point. The whole thing just shatters.
So patience is key,
Patience is key.
even when we're not seeing those immediate results.
Mm.
Now, what really fascinated me was this idea of identity-based habits.
Oh, interesting.
It's not just about doing the habit.
Right.
It's about becoming the kind of person who embodies that habit.
It really is.
Aligning those actions with who you see yourself as.
Yeah, let's say you want to be a runner, right? You can't just put on your shoes every once in a while.
Yeah.
It's got to be you see yourself as a runner.
He has this great example in the book of, I think it was a woman who was so diligent about taking care of her contact lenses.
Okay, yeah.
And when asked why, she was like, well, I'm someone who takes care of their things. It was just an extension of who she was.
It's so powerful, right?
It is.
When you start acting in alignment with that identity you want to have,
Mm-hmm.
the more you do it, the more it solidifies that image.
Yeah.
And then it makes it even easier to stick to it.
It's like a beautiful, positive feedback loop.
It really is.
So now we know a little bit about the why. Let's get into the how.
Okay, yeah.
How do we actually put this into practice?
Yeah.
Clear breaks down the mechanics of habits into 4 stages: cue, craving, response, and reward.
That's the foundation right there.
That's the foundation.
So if we understand these stages, we can tweak them a little.
We can hack the system.
We can hack it. Totally.
Okay, let's start with cues.
Right.
Our brains are incredible at picking up on these signals that predict a potential reward.
Like our primal instincts.
Yes.
Way back when, our ancestors, they had to be tuned into their surroundings.
Right.
Food, shelter, danger.
Absolutely.
The cues might be a little different now, but the mechanism's the same.
So to build a good habit, we need to make the cue obvious.
I mean, they're obvious, yeah.
So if I'm trying to build a daily meditation practice,
Okay.
I might put my meditation cushion right there in the middle of the living room,
Right where you can see it.
front and center, so I can't miss it.
So you're not having to think too hard about it,
Yeah.
Just, oh, there it is.
Oh. And then on the flip side, to break a bad habit,
Uh-huh.
we want to make those cues invisible. So if late night snacking is my downfall, I'm hiding the snacks, or better yet, not even bringing them in that house in the first place.
Out of sight and of mind, right.
Exactly.
Now, remember that story about the Vietnam War veterans?
Oh, yeah.
Heroin addiction?
Yeah.
So many were using over there.
Right.
But when they came back to the U.S., hardly any of them relapsed.
It's because the cues weren't there anymore.
Exactly. The stress of the war.
Right. The environment, the social group.
All of it. Gone.
Yeah. It really highlights how much our environment shapes our habits.
Totally.
So I think this is a great point to maybe stop and ask ourselves,
Yeah.
what are the cues in my life that might be influencing my habits?
Both good and bad.
Both good and bad.
Think about that.
Absolutely.
Now let's move on to cravings.
All right. So how do we make a habit so appealing that we actually want to do it?
We got to make it attractive.
Attractive.
Clear talks about this thing called temptation bundling.
Oh, I love this.
You basically link something you need to do with something you want to do.
Oh, that's so smart.
Right.
So, I love listening to podcasts,
Okay.
but I struggle to make time for exercise.
Okay, so you only let yourself listen to your favorite podcasts when you're working out.
Boom. There it is.
You got it.
You're hacking that reward system.
You're making it fun.
And absolutely.
What about social influence? Have you thought about that?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, I feel like.
We're more likely to pick up habits, right, that everyone around us is doing.
Right. If it's the norm, that makes it much easier.
Totally.
We're social creatures. We want to fit in.
Right.
So if I want to read more, I join a book club.
Yeah.
If I want to eat healthy, I find friends who are also into that.
Yeah, surround yourself with people who are already doing it.
Right.
That support system is huge.
Huge.
Right? We've made those habits tempting. We're craving them.
Mm-hmm.
But how do we make them easy?
This is where I think a lot of people get tripped up.
It's easy to overcomplicate things,
Yeah.
right?
We got to reduce that friction.
Make the good habits easy to start and the bad habits hard to start.
Yes.
And Clear has this idea he calls the 2-minute rule.
The 2-minute rule, I'm intrigued.
You got to break it down, okay?
Okay.
Like, instead of saying, I'm going to write a whole novel,
Right?
you just say, I'm going to write for 2 minutes,
So simple.
right? Lowers the barrier to entry.
It's almost impossible to say no to 2 minutes.
Right, and once you start,
Right.
you're probably going to keep going.
You get that momentum going.
Exactly.
I was also thinking about like those one-time actions that can make a lasting impact,
Oh, like what?
like automating your savings
Yeah.
or like unsubscribing from those tempting email lists.
Smart.
You do it once and then you're good.
Set it and forget it.
Yeah, set it and forget it.
Love it.
It reminds me of the story Clear tells about the invention of the cash register.
Oh, yeah.
Employee theft was a huge problem
Before that,
before that, yeah. But the cash register, it made it so much harder to steal.
built-in accountability.
Exactly.
That's some brilliant design thinking right there.
It is.
Okay, so we've made the habit obvious, attractive, easy.
What's the final ingredient?
It's got to be satisfying.
It's got to be satisfying. We got to have that reward.
We got to make it so we're going to do it again and again.
So our brains love rewards.
Big time.
How do we use that to our advantage?
Clear loves habit trackers.
Oh, yeah, habit trackers.
Just visually tracking your progress can be incredibly motivating.
Yeah, even in small increments.
Even tiny little bits.
He tells that great story about, I think it was a salesman
Oh, yeah.
who used this paperclip strategy.
Yeah, I love that one.
Every time he made a successful sales call, he moved a paperclip from one jar to another.
That's it.
It seems so simple. But
It's so visual, right?
yeah,
You can see yourself making progress.
you get that little hit of dopamine, and
Exactly.
it keeps you going.
It's those little wins.
It is all about the little wins.
Every little step forward is a victory. And, celebrating those little improvements,
Yeah.
that's huge.
Celebrating the progress, not perfection.
That's the key.
Okay, now I'm sensing that accountability is a big piece of this puzzle.
It is.
Clear even suggests creating a habit contract.
The contract with yourself.
Basically, you put it in writing,
Hmm.
your commitment to the habit, and the consequences if you don't follow through.
Oh, yeah. He's got that great story about that entrepreneur, Brian Harris.
Oh, yeah.
He used a habit contract for his weight loss goals.
He went all in.
He was serious about it, man.
He was.
He even got his wife and his trainer involved.
Oh, wow.
The accountability was real.
External pressure can be so helpful,
Right.
but it also makes me wonder about this.
What's that?
How do we choose the right habits in the first place?
That's a great question.
There are so many possibilities.
There are.
How do we know where to focus our energy?
That's where Clear's idea of the explore-exploit trade-off comes in.
Ooh, tell me more.
And that's exactly what we're going to dive into in part 2.
All right, listeners, stay tuned because things are about to get even more interesting.
Welcome back, Deep Divers. We left off talking about how to pick the right habits, remember?
Yeah, with all these amazing strategies, it's almost like, where do we even start?
Exactly. We don't want to spread ourselves too thin, right? We got to prioritize.
So how do we do that?
That's where Clear's concept of the explore-exploit trade-off comes in.
Explore, exploit.
It's a balance, basically,
Yeah.
between trying new things, the exploring part,
Right.
and really leaning into the stuff we're already good at, the exploiting.
So it's kind of like a treasure hunt.
Yeah, I like that.
First, you got to explore, see what's out there, find that treasure,
Find where the gold is.
and then you exploit it, you dig it all up.
Exactly. You focus your energy where it matters most.
I love that analogy.
Clear uses this great example in the book.
Oh, yeah.
Scott Adams, the guy who created Dilbert.
Oh, yeah, of course.
He wasn't necessarily like the best artist or the funniest writer out there,
Okay.
but he combined those skills in this unique way.
So it's about finding that sweet spot where your talents and interests kind of overlap.
Exactly.
And sometimes that takes a little experimentation.
It does. It's not always going to be obvious right away.
Which makes me think about this idea of identity-based habits again. Like, maybe by exploring different habits, we can figure out which ones really resonate with who we want to be.
It's all about self-discovery.
Yeah.
You might try something new, thinking it fits, but then realize, not so much.
And that's okay.
It's all part of the process.
But here's the thing.
What's that?
I think we live in this world of instant gratification.
We want results NAW.
Exactly. So when we don't see that progress right away, it's easy to get discouraged.
Oh, absolutely.
Clear talks about how our environment kind of messes with us.
What do you mean?
Like our ancestors, right?
Yeah.
They lived in this immediate return environment.
They'd find food, they'd eat it, they'd survive, like instant results.
Immediate consequences.
Exactly.
But now, so many of our goals, they take time.
Yeah, like building a business
Writing a book.
might take months, years even.
We're talking delayed returns.
And our brains, they're wired for that quick dopamine hit.
It's a tough adjustment.
It is.
So we got to find ways to make those long-term efforts feel good right now.
So how do we do that? How do we stay motivated when the reward feels so far away?
Well, one way is to shift our focus.
Okay.
Instead of obsessing over the end goal, we focus on enjoying the process itself.
So like if I'm working on this huge creative project, right?
Mhm.
Instead of getting overwhelmed by the size of it all,
Yeah,
I should try to find joy in the day-to-day act of creating.
exactly. Find those little moments of flow, those little bursts of inspiration.
Yeah.
Enjoy the journey, not just the destination.
Clear also talks about celebrating those wins no matter how small.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like fuel for our motivation
It reinforces that connection.
between the habit and those positive feelings.
Yeah, so we're more likely to stick with it.
So it's about training our brains to appreciate the consistent effort.
Even when the big payoff feels far off.
Exactly.
You got to remember, those little actions, they're shaping us.
They're building us into the person we want to become.
One step at a time.
This has been so insightful.
I'm glad you're getting so much out of it.
We've talked about picking the right habits, making them stick.
Hacking that reward system.
But before we wrap things up,
Okay.
there's one more question I just got to ask.
Lay it on me.
We've talked about how habits shape our identity,
Mm-hmm.
but how much can we really change?
Oh, good one.
If we can change our habits, can we change who we are at our core?
That's a deep question.
It is.
And it's something we're going to unpack in the final part of our deep dive.
All right, listeners, stay tuned because we're about to get philosophical. Welcome back, deep divers. I feel like we're getting to the heart of things now.
Right, like we're peeling back the layers of the onion.
Exactly. We've talked about how our habits shape who we are,
Mm-hmm.
but if we can change those habits, does that mean we can fundamentally change who we are at our core?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is. And it's one that James Clear explores in Atomic Habits.
He does, and he uses this phrase that I think is so powerful. Vote for the type of person you want to become.
I love that.
Every action we take is like casting a vote for the kind of person we want to be.
So if I want to be a writer,
Right. If you want to be a musician,
make music. It's that simple.
well, it's simple in theory, but it does take consistent effort over time.
Absolutely. And I think that's where a lot of us get tripped up. We expect to see those dramatic changes right away.
Right. We live in a world of instant gratification, so it's tough to wrap our heads around the idea of gradual transformation.
It's like we're battling against our own wiring. Our brains are designed to prioritize those immediate rewards.
They are. But the good news is that we can train our brains to appreciate those delayed returns.
So how do we do that?
Well, one of the most effective strategies is to shift our focus. Instead of getting fixated on the end goal,
Right.
we focus on enjoying the process itself.
So let's say I'm working on this massive project that might take me years to complete.
Yeah.
Instead of freaking out about how long it's going to take, I should just try to savor those little moments of joy along the way.
Exactly. Find those pockets of flow, those bursts of inspiration, that feeling of satisfaction when you make a little bit of progress.
And Clear also emphasizes the importance of celebrating those small wins, right?
It does. Those little victories are so crucial. They reinforce those positive feelings, which makes us more likely to stick with the habit.
So it's all about training our brains to appreciate the power of consistency.
Even when the reward feels far off. Because those small actions, they really are adding up.
They're shaping us into the people we want to be, one step at a time.
Exactly. It's not about overnight transformations or superhuman willpower. It's about embracing the process of gradual growth.
This deep dive into Atomic Habits has been amazing. I feel like I've learned so much about the mechanics of change.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you, and I hope our listeners feel empowered to create some positive change in their own lives.
So as we wrap up, remember, choose your habits wisely, make them obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying, and most importantly, never underestimate the power of those tiny changes to create some truly remarkable results.
Absolutely. Small changes, consistently applied, lead to big results.
That's a wrap on our deep dive into Atomic Habits. We hope you enjoyed it and learned a ton. We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration of ideas that can change the way you think and live.
Hey there, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel.